Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here at the Women in Emerging Tech Conference that's being hosted at the Digital Innovation Festival here in Victoria. My name is Danielle Marie, and I'm a Web3 educator, crypto enthusiast, and community organizer that's dedicated to spreading knowledge and fostering the growth in the Web3 industry. When I started my journey, I realized that there was an underrepresentation of women in the space, which led me to founding She's Blockchain Savvy back in 2020, and now has helped me create Women in Digital Economy, which is an initiative that is aimed at empowering more women to enter in the field of emerging technology. We've all seen AI dominate the headlines this year. So today we're going to be discussing the potential advancements of AI and how the role can play with trading and the development of the tech and how it might influence the cryptocurrency industry. And we're going to be discussing this with Gracy Chen. Gracy Chen is the managing director of Bitget. Bitget is one of the world's largest leading Web3 platforms with over 20 million users in over 100 countries. Gracy oversees the growth and expansion of the global markets, strategy, and corporate development. Her background in applied mathematics and an MBA in degree from MIT, which led her to being this executive role at XR Space, which is a VR technology company and also the unicorn company of Accumulus. Under Gracy's leadership, Bitget quadrupled her user base. Her expertise and strategic vision have played a significant role in the platform's success. You'll see Gracy as a judge on the upcoming Web3 Shark Tank Killer Whale, co-produced by Hello Labs and CoinMarketCap, airing later this year. So I'm so excited to jump into this topic about AI and cryptocurrency. So, Gracy, before we get started, I have a bunch of questions for you, but I'd like to learn a little bit about what led you to investing in crypto back in 2014.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction, by the way. So in 2014, I was actually a TV host at a financial and technology show. And that's my journey or my career before joining the Web2 startup world where I was executives at this VR and fintech firm. But when I was a TV host, I had a TV friend who told me, Gracie, you should check out crypto. But back in 2014, because of this friend, I bought some major currencies like BTC, TH, and XRP. I also remember I read the white paper of Bitcoin, and I was really intrigued by the spirit of decentralization and how they can create and store the value by blockchain and through cryptocurrency. And given that the topic today is AI, I guess my background in applied mathematics at MIT is quite relevant because I'm not a technical person. I wouldn't say that. I don't really code. I nerd, C++, some of those computer languages back in my university. But I also like to, be very research driven. And when I make investment decisions, I leverage data and facts. Yeah, so AI, in terms of this topic, I've been quite active talking to my friends and professors at MIT, some postdocs, PhDs who are doing the cutting edge research. And there are lots of, like you mentioned, there are lots of hypes, lots of stories around AI. But I think a key thing to navigate the current situation is really to be able to understand what's really happening. And I hope that through today's conversation, we get to decode some of those things, especially relationships between AI and blockchain.
Wow, there's so many things I want to unpack there. And I have one last question before I jump into the questions that I've prepared for you today. Today, I really want to talk about, we keep talking about data, on-chain data, etc. And recently there's been a lot of discussion, the showdown between Web3 and AI. It's this big topic of conversation because AI really has, a lot of people see it as this direct competition with Web3. However, I don't see it that way because I'm a blockchain educator and that's what I do, teaching about how we're going to apply blockchain to business. And I actually see the role myself of how blockchain can actually work really well in synergy to provide trust and be able to identify digital identities, etc. But I'd like to get your view on what's your perception on this whole Web3 versus AI.
Yeah, so lots of people view Web3 and AI as competitors. To me, I think in the short term, yes, they might be, especially if you look at VC's flow of money and talents flow in terms of, which company they chose to go to among top universities or those PhDs, etc. VC are putting lots of money into AI over Web3. That's been happening for the past 1 or 2 years already. And talents, media, everyone gets more excited about AI than Web3. And this is a bear market, we have to agree. And Bitcoin cryptocurrency industry always have this 3.5 to 4 year kind of cycle, at least so far for the past 10 plus years since Bitcoin's birth. But this is bear market, and then AI is hot. So in the short term, it sounds like they are total competitors. But I think in the long run, they are not. They should go from enemies to friends. So we can call it a friend-enemy relationship. But more importantly, they should go hand in hand. Why? In my opinion, AI, artificial intelligence, is like the production power. So think about, car and electricity, right? Electricity is a great example in terms of how production power can change someone's or the society's how it works, because it just allows things to be faster and more efficiently. AI is totally similar. It's like the new electricity. But blockchain is more like a production relationship. So if you look at on-chain and how blockchain helps facilitate the decentralization and having the community holding the tokens to in order for them to have control over their own information, etc. Yeah, so that's why I think blockchain is like a relationship change, a production relationship that especially changes how we distribute wealth and how we distribute many of the powers that we may talk about later, but um, it's more of a relationship thing. So again, they should not be enemy, especially in the long run. But in the short run, if you just treat them as different technologies, maybe they are competitors.
Yeah, definitely. I couldn't agree more. And there's so much I want to unpack there. But I want to jump in and, with cryptocurrency, a lot of people enter in this space, even myself when I very first got into the industry. And it was because I wanted to speculate, I wanted to trade. I'd heard all these stories of people making a lot of money. Then I quickly learned about blockchain and the technology. And I started, as you mentioned earlier, how do you do your research and learn to make educated decisions with my investing. But there's still a lot of people out there that do want to trade cryptocurrency. And I'm interested on how the industry can leverage off of AI tools to assist people that do want to, trade cryptocurrency. What do you think AI can bring to the cryptocurrency industry, or how could that potentially help traders with being able to trade cryptocurrency?
If we're going to talk about short-term applications, I mean, we explored a bit about the long-term potential, sort of big picture. But in the short term, I think we've seen lots of application about AI in our industry already. So for example, I talked to this company based in Singapore. They are like an AI version of Bloomberg. What they do is to use AI to extract data from everywhere and analyze them, and then do cryptocurrency trading prediction, especially on the price. So that's one way. So using historical data and machine learning algorithms, AI can actually predict the price trend and help investors make more informed decision. I mean, that has lots of potential, especially there are when it's like bull market and more people want to get into the space. But AI, just like human being, AI can make mistakes as well. So be very careful when you are using tools like that. And another example of applying AI into crypto is to have some blockchain smart contract execution. So I talked about on-chain data in the WorldCoin example. That everything is on-chain. So actually, lots of smart contracts can be executed and programmed automatically. And using AI technology, some intelligent contract design execution can be achieved, so that all these, contract, the smart contract can be really executed efficiently, accurately, and securely. So that's another example. I guess everything around AI versus crypto will be a lot about improving efficiency. So these two examples is very much around improving efficiency and prediction. And there is also a new sector that we've been looking into in terms of our investment team, which is ZKML. So ZK roll up technology. Definitely have heard of it. So ZK stands for zero knowledge, and ML stands for machine learning. So that this is another sector. I myself is also studying it. I don't. I do my personal investment, but I haven't invested. I mean, my personal money hasn't been put into the sector. So, but I'm aware this is a very important trend that is going to probably change how layer twos are going to be built, and how all these mainnets, especially like Ethereum, can be further improved in terms of efficiency. So above all, I think the combination of AI and blockchain can offer lots of possibilities, but there are also challenges and hurdles that is going to be faced. And it's a very important trend, and I also want to learn more and discuss more with the experts in this space. But I think there are some examples that we talked about.
Thank you for that. It was so insightful. And I couldn't agree more. And I think it's the whole zero knowledge proofs and AI and blockchain, like I'm just so excited to see how it all unfolds. Now at Blockchain Week Australia, which was just a couple of months ago, you mentioned that Bitget was exploring AI further beyond the automated customer service. So can you give us a little insight what's maybe happened since then?
Sure. Yes. So first of all, there are some very straightforward applications, such as translation, customer service. So in our customer service part, we are integrating with this third party provider called ADA in order to. It's basically a crypto version of ChatGPT and used in customer service, where the reaction can be fast. These have some very straightforward applications. I mean, since like 5 years ago, I've been experiencing callings using AI. Like there are just automatic reaction from the other side if you are calling a customer service line, right? So other than these straightforward applications, at Bigget, we're also experimenting with AI in trading activities. So since June, we actually have explored and published a few AI trading bots. One of them is AI martingale strategy. So it's basically, martingale strategy. It sounds like a awful acronym. Like many people keep asking me, what the hell is this? But basically, it's just dollar cost averaging strategy, and it's especially helpful when it's like a bear market right now, when all the cryptocurrency prices are pretty much low. If you are thinking about maybe 1 or 2 years later, but you can't time the market, right? The fact that I can buy it at the dip is actually very hard, and I just happened to be awake because I'm
I was
traveling.
going to say, I was sleeping.
Exactly, the whole Asia market was sleeping, so you can't time the market just because you need to sleep, maybe. But joke aside, you just can't time the market. So dollar cost averaging strategy can be helpful if you. Let me just quickly explain, if we might have audiences who are not familiar with this concept. But let's say you have 10,000 USD that you wanna put into cryptocurrency. Instead of buying it at one time at whatever price you think might be low, we would suggest you to put it into like maybe 10 portions, and just one by 1,000 per month. or even per week at a certain date. Let's say I'll just buy 1,000 at day 5 of each month. Then you do it 1 month by 1 month. That's what we call dollar cost averaging, because you are averaging out your dollar cost. So we had this strategy going on for a while already, but we also introduced the AI feature of this in order to have our traders, profit and hopefully recoup the losses by increasing investment after market downturn. So when the AI strategy suggests that this might be a downturn, maybe when even if you're doing dollar cost averaging, you can allocate a little bit more in this downturn. So that's the idea of AI martingale strategy. Many people may still want to stick to the traditional dollar cost averaging, which I think is perfectly fine. But if you want to explore the AI and how the algorithm might be able to help you automate some of the traders, some of the trades based on the risk appetite and investment frequency, maybe you can try a little bit with the Bigget's martingale AI strategy. And we also had an AI great trading strategy, which has a similar spirit, but it's just like applied more on the great strategy itself. So what is great strategy then? We're like doing this trading or investment 101 course, but basically great trading is if you think Bitcoin price will just swing by 25,000 to 30,000, what you can do is to set this as a grade so that the strategy itself will just buy at this price and sell at this price. Or alternatively, you can have a few grades in between. Let's say you have like 10 grades within this 5,000 range of the time difference. Then it's just like 500 per grade, right? So you will buy here, sell here, then buy here, sell here, like that. But basically, grading strategy is another area that we are applying AI to. Yeah, so these are some AI trading bots that we have been used, which I think is quite interesting. But again, I want to emphasize there are risks. Any sort of investment, there are risks. So be careful and know what you are doing. Read enough and explore enough.
So I'm definitely interested in learning more about these AI bots that Bitget's using and how it could potentially help people that want to get into the industry and start speculating. But you mentioned some of the risks. So could you maybe dive a little bit deeper on what could be some of the risks by using AI by a cryptocurrency exchange? Like what could that lead to for some of the consumers that play with this space?
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's a great example. And I think that's very important for anyone to be able to understand the relationship between AI and Web3. I guess the biggest or the most significant issue then can arise when AI is combined with market making or trading strategy is about training data. So, AI is built on two important things. Number one, a big set of training data, we call it LLM or any other training data, right? And then the intelligent model that is driving how do we use this data. So in terms of training data, some people say garbage in, rubbish out, right? So if the training data is a rubbish, then rubbish in, rubbish out. So it can work in certain market or certain market condition, but in some other cases when it's quite extreme, the training data have never seen this kind of situation, then the output can be quite dangerous. Yeah, so I think one great example that people had in traditional finance market was a few years ago. There is a Bridgewater, this company. They have like an all-weather strategy, and this actually became a mainstream investment strategy in that market. But and also by like give you some data by 2018, the total amount of assets managed by this kind of strategy, this similar asset allocation strategy in the US alone was as high as 1.5 trillion USD. We're not even talking about billion, it's trillion. But the fact that all the asset allocation actually relies a lot on historical data and the relationships between various assets that they are looking at were actually being the trouble. So during the time of a decreased liquidity, which in that case happened on the March 12th, 2020, a large amount of liquidation a large amount of like people putting out money, right? Like liquidation or like a bank run. I wouldn't call it bank run, but similar concept actually increased the volatility and triggered automatic balancing of all these strategies. So just to keep stories short and not going to technical details nor financially technical details, what happened later is that it had a quick crash, and the crash is as big as the I can't remember the data, but I think it kind of caused a U.S. stock market crash a few days ago. So this is a great example. I think when you look at all these AI strategies, you have to have a deeper question, the data, the training data sets. And I guess another thing I want to highlight is also ethically, can AI be blamed or especially when it comes to decision making, right? So let's say if you made a financial decision based on a AI tool, should you blame AI or should you blame the team who did the program of the AI, or should you blame the company behind it, or should you blame yourself, right? So these ethical questions, and in certain markets such as US, AI financial advisory is just very tricky, because if it's a real human being, they have the license, and their license can be taken off if they behave unethically. But if you are listening to an AI financial advisory, can the government give them license? And how can we ensure all these ethical questions being raised? Yeah, so these are certain examples that or risks that we want to highlight.
I think, Gracie, I could talk to you for hours, and I have so many more questions for you, but I'm mindful of your time. I know that you're a very, very busy lady. So I want to final question for you for today, and I hope that we get another time to chat. But AI continues to advance, and with the challenges and opportunities that are available, what do you anticipate for, crypto in the coming years with the AI advancements?
I guess one thing I want to highlight is about security and how AI can play a role in combating fraud. So, for example, machine learning algorithms can analyze the transaction patterns and detect certain suspicious activities. Then we can, significantly reduce the risk of money laundering and other fraudulent transactions. And we also, this is one example and one trend that I see. And then another one is ZK machine learning. Again, ZK has been very useful for protecting users' data. And there are a few things that we've been experimenting with as well. So one of them is to have our users' information protected through ZK rollup. And even for internal stuff that we want to who should be guaranteed or granted certain access, they can get limited data or just the very necessary data of our user. For example, maybe our technical team need to look at their UID and look at certain transactions, but we want to use, and we have been using ZK proofs, not technology, to limit that access and to provide a more privacy enhancing kind of trading experience for our user. I guess this will be more and more interesting and becoming more and more popular as well among other exchanges or maybe other service providers.
Yeah, amazing. So there's so many topics and so many things that we discussed today that there may be a lot of new people that are into the industry that don't really have a full grasp and understanding of a lot of the topics that we talked about today: zero knowledge proof and AI and cryptocurrency and trading bots. Now, one of the things I love about Bitget Academy, Bitget, is that you have the Bitget Academy, because I'm a Web3 educator, so I absolutely love that. So I know that people can go to Bitget Academy. Could you give us a little insight on what type of education they can find there, and then also how we can, follow you or learn more about Bitget and the advancements and the growth that's happening within the Bitget ecosystem?
Sure. So Bigget Academy is something we started a few years ago. I think it existed a long time before I joined the firm, 1.5 years ago. So at Bigget Academy, you'll be able to find lots of information around educational materials. Some of the concepts, ZKML, layer one, layer two, and AI. All these concepts have been explored systematically on Bitget Academy. And also, by the way, we also have another team called Bitget Research. The approach is slightly different, but the goal were same among the two teams. It's just Bitget Academy is probably more for the mass market, like anyone who may not have a very technical background. While the research team's approach is a lot about on-chain data, much more technical, much more research driven. But both teams provide great content for free for our users, and feel free to check them out. And I myself also have a Twitter account. I'm very active on Twitter. And I also have other accounts such as LinkedIn, Telegram, and even Instagram. I mean, my Instagram is not that frequently used. But yeah, my main social media is Twitter account. So feel free to follow me there. And I share a lot of thoughts about what's happening in Bigget, what's been happening in the industry, and my own technical analysis.
So, Gracie, thank you so much for your time today. There's so much valuable information that you shared with us. And I'm really hoping that you can come visit us in Australia one day.
Yeah, I've been in Australia and I love the place. So hopefully I can return soon.
All right. Thank you so much, Gracie. You have a fantastic day.
You too. Thank you.